Welcome to It's About Time, and thank you for watching us. Natchez, Mississippi. The late 1830s. On the banks of the Mississippi River, where cotton made kings and blood paid the price, a young enslaved woman named Clara lived under the shadow of the grand plantations. Most people don't remember her name today, but in whispers, hidden away in family diaries, in rumors passed through generations, Clara is remembered as the poisoner, the girl who dared to strike back in the only way she could. And when she did, death spread across the fields like a fever. This is her story. Clara wasn't born free. She never knew freedom. She was born into chains, the child of an enslaved mother who worked the kitchens of the Bellamy plantation just outside Natchez. The plantation itself was a beast. Rows upon rows of cotton stretching further than eyes could see, broken only by oak trees dripping with Spanish moss. The mansion sat in the center, all whitewashed walls and tall columns, built to look eternal, though the air inside was rotten with cruelty. By the time Clara was 16, she had been moved into the house. She became what they called a house girl, cleaning, sewing, waiting at the family's table. She was closer to the masters than most, close enough to see their real faces, the way their smiles turned to snarls when no one else was watching. The kitchen was her domain. Heavy iron pots bubbled on the fire. Knives clanged against wooden boards. Rats scurried in the corners. The air always smelled of grease, onions, and smoke. Clara learned every trick of cooking, every herb, every powder. She learned how flavors could hide bitterness, how the wrong root mixed into stew could turn a stomach sour. That knowledge, that power, was the one thing they hadn't stripped from her. The Bellamys were cruel. Old Judge Bellamy was said to beat his slaves until their backs split open. His wife, Charlotte, would mock them, dressing young girls in old gowns just for her amusement, laughing as they stumbled in silks that weren't theirs. The children, raised in that same poison, learned to treat Clara and the others as less than dogs. And still, she had to smile, serve their meals, fold their linens, keep her eyes lowered. But under her skin, the hate boiled hotter with every passing season. At night, in the quarters, she heard the stories. How men had been sold away, how women were taken in the dark, how children disappeared downriver and never returned. Her own mother had been whipped until her body was nothing but scars. Clara started to whisper back, not stories, but ideas, darker ones. What if the masters got sick? What if the lash turned on them instead? What if the poison of this place could spread backward, up the chain, into the house, into their veins? And slowly, the whispers became plans. The first death was small, barely noticed. A guest of the family, a cousin from Vicksburg, took ill after supper. He raved with fever, his skin waxy, his gut twisted in knots. Within 2 days, he was dead. The Bellamys blamed the summer flux, a common enough sickness. Nobody suspected Clara, not yet. But Clara had watched. She had measured the drops. She knew, and it lit something inside her, cold, steady, determined. After that, she moved carefully, a little more each week, a pinch in the wine, a spoonful in the stew, enough to make them sick, not dead at first. She learned their limits, what each stomach could take. She studied their weakness like a doctor. And then, she began to push harder. It started with nausea, headaches, a burning that no doctor's tonic could cure. One by one, the Bellamys began to falter. Judge Bellamy sweated through his nights, clutching his belly. Charlotte fainted at the table. The children wailed with stomach cramps. The slaves in the quarters noticed first. They saw the family grow weaker while Clara's eyes grew sharper. Rumors swirled. Was she a conjure woman? A witch? Some said she had made a deal with spirits from the river, the restless souls of the enslaved who had died there. Whatever the truth, the Bellamy plantation was rotting from within. It wasn't just the family. Overseers, visitors, even hired men began to fall sick after eating at the house. Some recovered, many didn't. And still, no one dared accuse Clara. Who would suspect the quiet house girl carrying her trays with downcast eyes? But Clara wasn't quiet in her mind. In her mind, she was feeding them back all the pain they had given out. Every bite they swallowed was a piece of justice. When Charlotte Bellamy finally collapsed, vomiting black bile, Clara stood at the doorway. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just watched. The mistress's silk sheet stained with sweat, her jewels clinking as she shook in agony. The plantation doctor said it was cholera, but some whispered it was no disease. It was Clara. It had always been Clara. By the time anyone dared to speak the truth, the plantation was cursed. Half the Bellamy family was gone. Workers were afraid to eat from the kitchens. Guests stopped visiting. The fields, once buzzing with labor, fell silent. Clara had done it. She had poisoned the very heart of the place. Months later, when the plantation lay half abandoned, Sheriff Donovan of Natchez went through what was left of the Bellamy house. He searched the kitchen where Clara once worked and found strange jars tucked behind the flour sacks, roots, powders, dried berries with no business being there. He questioned the surviving servants, and one by one, they whispered her name. Donovan wrote in his ledger that Clara had been the hand behind the sickness. He closed the book with the words, "Justice served, though too late." But even he admitted, in a letter never meant for public eyes, that when he walked out of that kitchen, the smell of bitter herbs clung to his clothes for days, almost as if Clara was still there, waiting. But power like that doesn't stay hidden. The overseers pieced it together. They dragged Clara from the kitchen one night, torches flickering, their faces twisted with rage and fear. Some said she confessed, spat in their faces even, claiming she would do it all again. Others say she stayed silent, her eyes burning holes through them, never giving them the satisfaction of fear. Her fate? Lost to history. Some claim she was hanged at the edge of the property, others that she was burned alive in the fields she once tended, and still others say she was buried alive beneath the house itself, her spirit trapped there forever. Walk near the ruins of Natchez today, and some swear you can still feel her. The air grows heavy, the birds fall silent. Some even say they've seen her, Clara carrying a silver tray, her eyes downcast, her hands steady as she serves one final meal. But if you look too closely, you might notice her smile. Because Clara of Natchez didn't just poison the Bellamys, she poisoned the very soil they walked on, and some curses never fade. Some stories rot beneath the surface, some stories never die. Life for the enslaved in those years, the so-called Victorian Era, was nothing short of a waking nightmare. While the wealthy sipped tea from fine china and posed for portraits, the people in chains bent under the sun from dawn until dark, their hands torn raw by cotton bolls, their backs scarred from whips. Nights brought little relief, crowded cabins with dirt floors, hunger that gnawed like rats, and the constant dread of being sold away from family. Even children weren't spared, dragged into the fields as soon as they could walk. It was a world where every breath, every step belonged to someone else, and every stolen moment of rest felt like rebellion. If you enjoyed this dive into the surprising world of 19th century crime stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And tell us in the comments what other stories you would like to hear from the 1800s dark history.